Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm working on a 2015 Mustang. Now I'm going to be replacing the stock muffler system. As you can see here, I have had them straight piped at one point with aluminized pipes, and I added in cutouts that were electronically controlled, and they were made with mild steel. They lasted about 7 years before they broke. Now the stock flex pipe coupling area also failed. This is a 2015, as I said, so they most likely built this exhaust system in 2014 to mount it on this car. Now I'm going to be replacing it with a 3-inch Flowmaster's Outlaw series. So this is a really good system. I didn't get it brand new because it was a $1,200 system. I got a really killer deal on the marketplace. That's my recommendation for anyone on a budget. Make sure you try to buy secondhand some car parts if you can, especially with things like this. Now, if this is a trailer queen, of course, I'd be getting this brand new, but this is still my driver, so that's why I said this is a recommendation for anyone who wants a car on the road to stay on the road for cheaper. Now, I am modifying it, and that's why I have to weld this and actually weld in some reducers from a 2 2/4 all the way up to 2.5 for the cutouts. Then I bring it up to 3-inch for this, with all gradually increasing the radius of the piping with these type of bends that I picked out. Now I'm going to include some of the list in my description of the items that I use so that you guys can buy them too. Now I am checking out to see if the 3-inch clamps are going to work in the middle of this exhaust system, because these are bolt-on exhaust systems from the factory. Like I said, the reason why I had to modify and weld it is because I kept the original catalytic converters for the car and I modified the mid pipes a long time ago. So I'm going to be using some new areas of metal to be installing that up there versus the normal mid pipe, which is really, really thin. So right now we're modifying the end to put the cutouts on, which we're going to also put a flange on the end of the cutouts that we can then bolt onto the cutouts and the catalytic converter with no issues. All we'll have to do is take the 2 bolts and a gasket, meet them together, and drop the Catback system anytime I need to work on anything, making this still a bolt-on kit. So I'm welding on a flange on the side of the original catalytic converters on the little bit of piping that's left, and then I'm welding on to the end of the cutouts, and these are all stainless steel application parts. I'm using a brand called Arc Captain stainless steel MIG wire. I'm also going to be using a roll of E308 LFC-O at 0.030 diameter. It's a 1-pound spool made by Nice Tech. Now these are all generic brands online on Amazon. I was giving them a whirl instead of buying a wheel of Hobart or Lincoln or something like that to make sure I was trying to be as budget friendly on this build when I can. As you can see, I'm cutting off the ends here to make them nice and flush with the extra length that's needed for the cutouts, because these will not be able to bolt on exactly like they would have if you still had the stock mid pipes. Like I said, I'm adding in the cutouts like I did for years, but this time I'm using, obviously, 304 stainless steel cutouts, which I'll be able to weld those on to the end of these pipes, which will go right to the catalytic converter. Now make sure you have your proper PPE on. As you can see here, I have welding sleeves on for making sure I don't get burned with any sparks, some welding gloves, and my welding helmet with safety glasses and a mask underneath. So you can see here, I cut them nice and flush to where I needed them. I got my Miller-Matic out 215 with my argon gas. Now it is self-shielded wire, so you can use that with the gasless flux core, which I was talking about, but with the other one, which is MIG wire from the Captain company, I think, whatever it was called, that one is actually needed to be shielded, so you had to turn the gas on for that one. And it's alright, it doesn't lay out the best beads, but it's also your technique and stuff like that that helps it. And I'm doing only spot welds to hold everything in place. Then I go around and do a quick bead all the way around to make sure it's sealed up. As you can see here, I'm applying some tack welds to add on that reducer. Get a little closer view for you of it burning up. Now this is the second case of wire at this point. It's going to be using the stainless steel MIG wire which is shielded. I have the amperage down a little lower than it needs to be to make sure I don't burn through in this section. Take your time, go around it so it can hold in place as you can do the rest of your welding that you need onto here. And like I said, this is going to bring it out to a 3-inch all the way from 2 1/4 with the reducer at the top with the flange connector. Now this is a concentric bend on a mandrel bender, so I wasn't able to make that at my shop. I was able to buy them, and that way I can actually reduce the exhaust system without actually adding on these clunky looking reducers. So we're bringing down the piping and make sure everything flows. As you can see here, we're test fitting the cutouts on there. At this point I recommend having 2 people to help you, so that way you can actually hold the pipe up, get your measurements. That's what I did before. To make those cuts, I needed the measurements with those cutouts mounted. And then now I'm welding on those cutouts with the angles that I need to make sure it can go around the trans tunnel. So what I did was I did a tack weld on them underneath the vehicle. And then I brought them down, and now I'm doing the final weld through. Now we're test fitting it and seeing how it lines up there. And I'm going to call it a night right there because this is really late and I couldn't really see what we were doing anymore at this point. We still have to play with the alignment. This is the next morning, checking everything out. As you can see, the stock catalytic converters get to mount with that flange right at the end. This way there's no problems with your emissions or anything else like that. I did not want to play around with that. I still go and get inspections with this car. I don't live in a state where you don't need them, so I'm making sure I still apply to those rules. Right now I'm using a smoke machine, and I plug both sides, and as they're shared in the middle with that H-pipe, you're going to be able to see the smoke come out both sides. Make sure you plug both sides, check it. I didn't have any extra leaks or anything else like that once I was done with it. Mount it up. You'll use some high heat thermal paste on the connectors if you don't have gaskets, or if you want to make sure it's a little extra tight. Play around with the back end so you can get the muffler tips lined up. Fitment of the tips are alright. Alright, now to the start. Alright, now we're going to do a driving test so you can hear it up to 5,000 RPM. Alright, unfortunately the mic didn't do it justice on how great it sounded, but it still sounded awesome. If I had an external mic, it would sound a little better for you to hear it. Now remember to check out our merch for sale, and remember to like and subscribe and see more videos just like this.